What's up, bikers? Episode 140. Today we have professional rider and YouTuber Rémy Métailler on the show. Super stoked about that. Hopefully I didn't butcher his last name. I know it's probably not quite right for you. Those of you that are French speaking probably are like, man, what's wrong with this dude? Anyways, he's got a short amount of time. So today I want to tell you guys a couple of things really quick. First of all, thanks to the guy that went over to Apple and wrote a review. I can't remember his name right now. It was really funny. It made me laugh. Basically, I'm a paraphrase. He said he loved the show. I'm relatable, and he's faster than me on Brewers in Sedona. And then I had no way to be able to check. So anyways, really appreciate that. If you guys want to help out the podcast, do me a favor, swing by Apple, write a 5-star review, and hopefully I'll remember your name, and then I'll go ahead and mention that on the next episode. It's really good. Helps the algorithm figure this shit out, right? So outside of that, thank you very much, Patreon. You guys are rad. You definitely are supporting the channel. It means a lot. So you guys can help out as well. Those of you that aren't on Patreon, as little as $1 a month. So it's really it's like I always say, man, bartender pours you a beer, you give him $1. So what the hell? Here's a podcast for 2 hours, right? Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get Rémy back on the screen here, and we'll just go ahead and get started. What's up, Rémy?
Hey, how are you doing?
Not bad, man. Just living the dream, right? How about you?
Yeah, good. Just came back from an e-bike ride. Enjoying the last bit of sun before the winter.
Yeah.
It was a bit cold, but very nice sun, so that's good.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that time of year where it gets chilly and it gets dark early. So that's always a bummer. Do you do any night rides?
I have actually never properly done any.
No, really?
Actually, first time I came to Vancouver, to Canada, my first ride was actually a night ride.
Did you have lights, or was it just a night ride?
No, we had lights, and I was actually blown away by the number of people doing it.
Yeah.
It was in end of February or maybe beginning of March. So, it's still, sunset is probably 6:30 p.m. or something like that.
Yeah.
PM. And so people after work, the trails were packed, and I was very impressed.
Yeah, it's like a whole different way of riding. It makes you ride a little looser, and you gotta you can't see the same, like the shadows are different and stuff. So it's kind of weird, but I don't know. It makes old trails new again. I'm surprised you haven't done much night riding, but
I have a set of lights always, so I will at some point do it for sure.
Yeah, right on, man. So how'd you get into riding?
Well, my dad was mountain biking, very recreational, and the sport was growing pretty big in the south of France. Every year there was basically the French theater close by where I live, so I'll go with my dad and see the bikes, and there's a bunch of BMX shows and stuff like that. And we had Nicolas Bouilloz, which has been 10 times. He's been 10 times world champion, and he was living close by where I lived, like a couple hours away, or not even actually. And so the scene was really growing with him being that successful. And suddenly you had, a lot more kids doing it, and started to have a few races around, and the sport got really popular in the south of France where I'm from, mostly because of, the success of some of the riders at the international level. So actually one of the first World Cup was organized close by Nice where I lived. And so the sport, even the sport of enduro, is basically born in the south of France. So that's kind of how I got into it. Just seeing it, I wanted to be part of it, and I've started riding, when I was a kid, but seriously when I was 15 or 16 years old. So
15 or 16 is when you really started to apply yourself, or more that's when you started racing or something?
No, that's when I got my first bikes that were capable of doing jumps and big jumps, stuff like that. So my first freeride bike was when I was 15, I think. Or I guess when I was 15, and I was maybe 16 actually. And then I started riding more often, like, once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Started to go to a few bike parks here and there, and then I did a couple of races, very, very amateur, but that's what really got me very passionate.
So is mountain biking like pretty popular in France, or is it kind of like still kind of catching on, or what would you say?
It is definitely very popular. Like, I mean, French riders are overall like, very, very competitive. Like in downhill, the last World Championship, was 1, 2, 3 for elite male. So it's actually quite popular in France. I won't say as much as it is in BC, where it's so normal to see, but in France it's pretty more competitive. So less people doing it for fun and more people actually racing or trying to race, especially younger generation. But the sport is big, like it's getting bigger.
So when you first started getting into like what kind of racing were you doing?
I did a couple of downhill races.
Of the what?
Downhill.
Oh, downhill. Okay, gotcha.
And so I did a few of those. Very just to participate, really. And so I took, I did a couple at the very start. Then I didn't do any for a few years, and I think I started to do a few of those local races when I was from 19, 20, 21 years old. I did seasons where I did actually, I'll race every race in my around my hometown, which was like 5, 6 races a year. And then I started to do some enduro races. So it was the same, basically same riders were doing both. Like a lot of the guys do downhill and enduro, and because everything is so close, the most driving you'll do to go to a race would be 2 hours.
Right. Yeah, I used to live in Germany, and I mean, you can pretty much get anywhere in Europe in a couple hours, right?
Exactly. So that was really convenient, and that really got me super passionate about the sport.
Right on, man. So, like, is that where you just stayed, like doing enduro and downhill, or did you like? Because I want to say I've seen like clips of you at like kind of like Rampage or something like that, or Red Bull or something like. Isn't that a big clip, like doing like kind of more like free riding stuff in one of your like your video intros?
I think what I really enjoy is riding. I've never loved the racing. I don't have the pressure of like having to go at a certain time and riding fast on a place where you don't necessarily want to go fast. So for me, like the best part for me was just riding and having fun. That's why naturally that's how I progressed into freeride, where basically do whatever you want to do, and even at Rampage, you pick up the line you want to ride. You are not told what to ride, so it's really. And now what I do with the videos and even on YouTube, it's I go and ride trails that I want to ride.
Right.
Which is so that way that keeps it exciting for me, and I don't have to follow a calendar of location where I don't necessarily want to ride, or if I'm not going to have fun, I just don't go, and I stick to stuff that I know is gonna make me excited to ride my bike.
How often do you ride? Like every day, or
in the summer, like basically every day. In the winter, it gets tricky. Like, I mean, over the last 2 weeks, I actually didn't ride. Just it's been really cold. It's been very wet, and it's just not as I can't really do any content when it's wet, dark,
right.
And so, and also it's kind of my off season, so I do take some time off. I try to ride a bit less and just focus on other stuff. Like I'm quite busy at home and have a lot going on with even like sponsors, like doing the business part basically. And so right now the days being shorter, like I spend a lot of time on my computer as well. So but in the summer I ride every day basically.
Yeah. What do you do to cross train?
I do like I go to the gym. Well, I have a gym So I do, like super basic workout, but just to keep in shape. I really enjoy road biking.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually, especially when I go to France, when I come back to France, I usually road bike, basically every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I ski a lot in the winter. And I discovered the passion for dirt biking and trials moto.
Oh,
So,
cool. Right on.
so I do a lot of enduro moto and trials moto.
Yeah.
And
There's a
it's
really big ski resort in France. What's like Mont Blanc or something? Was like, you know which one I'm talking about?
Mont Blanc. Mont Blanc is a mountain of it's like the tallest mountain in Europe, and
Yeah.
that's where basically, that's in Les Alpes, and Les Alpes is basically the mountain area, and there you got hundreds of ski resorts basically.
Yeah. I never got to ski in France. I skied in Austria and stuff like that, but in Germany, obviously, that's where I lived. But I never got over there. I kind of always thought Mont Blanc was like the Whistler of Europe. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you got like a lot of ski brands that are from Grenoble or Annecy, which are the cities, because Mont Blanc is actually the mountain, but at the bottom, that's where you got all the different like little cities. And I think Rossignol and Salomon are from, if I'm correct, Annecy and Grenoble, which are at the base of the mountain.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah,
so you get a lot of brands from there, obviously.
Yeah, when I was in Austria, like you could ski between like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different cities just on the lifts. Like it's kind of crazy to compare it to here.
You don't really have that in North America. It's very European, where you can take one lift and go from one mountain to the other, and just if you had to drive, that would take you all day. But
right,
go up, down. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, cool. It was definitely quite the experience, to be able to do that. How'd you get into skiing? Was that like same thing? Your dad did it, and you were just like whatever.
My dad did it, and at first I wanted to be a pro skier when I was a kid. And I was actually much better at skiing than I was at biking. But I think like my dad was always, like skiing is a sport that's, it's going to die with obviously the snow condition, being worse every year. And I've definitely seen that. Like in France, it's pretty obvious that the slow level has gone like slimmer and slimmer over the years, over the last, 25, 30 years. And even for myself, as when I was a student, just before I moved to Canada, I didn't have the money to go and travel to go skiing. And I mean, every season was getting worse and worse. So actually quality days that I had were very, very slim. And so I never lost interest for skiing because I've always loved it. And I'm super excited to go skiing in the next, couple of weeks when Whistler is open. But it was definitely getting tricky with the conditions. Well, mountain biking, you can bike basically anytime. Sometimes are definitely much nicer than others because of the temperature and the dirt, etc. But you can ride in the winter, you can ride in the summer. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, I used to like ski all winter and mountain bike all summer, and kind of like really had a like differentiation between the two. But somewhere along the line, I think we had like a real lousy winter and it didn't snow much here. I live in Northern California now, and for whatever reason, we rode bikes all winter. And ever since then, I just haven't skied as much. Like every once in a while, I'll go a couple times, and it's still just as fun to me. But for some reason, I think the biking just has my passion,
Yeah, I mean, and passion come and go, right?
Yeah, totally right.
There's stuff that I guess I've never really lost passions for anything. I just add new passions.
Right, exactly. That's the way it goes, right? So you said you were getting into some moto stuff too. What are you doing there?
In Squamish, there's actually a pretty big scene for trials moto and enduro moto. So there are trails that are different from the mountain bike trails, different zones, and it's stuff that you will not enjoy mountain bike on it. The mountain biking will not be interesting.
Yeah.
But it's been really fun. Like we have a good group of friends, and mountain biking being my job, every time I ride, it's usually to get content.
Yeah.
Of course, I ride social and for fitness with my friends, but a lot of my friends got into enduro moto like a little bit before me, and I just didn't get to hang out as much with them because they would still ride mountain bikes, but the time that I ride bikes, usually it's work, and so the moto was a good way for me to keep the social aspect and hang out with the same friends. And yeah, we all got into the sport like basically at the same time, and so it's been like really fun. Like we compete against each other at a very friendly level, but it's been really cool. And
I would imagine that's pretty good, like physical cross training though too, because I mean, even though you're using a throttle, you're still having to throw that bike around.
it's I am more tired after motos than after biking.
Yeah.
It's very, especially because we do hard enduro. So like, you get stuck and you have to muscle the bike around, trying to get up in and turn around on a single track and push your bike. And it's really, really physical. And there's a huge technique, it's like you have to get smart with just like a mountain bike, right? You see guys that can ride down all day long and not get tired because they've got a good technique. But as soon as you start struggling and your technique is not on point, like you use way more energy. Same with skiing, surfing, and any sport really. But it's been really cool. I really enjoy it, and it's really different from mountain biking, but you still like on trails in the forest, and
similar that way.
It's actually focused on the uphill versus mountain biking that's focused on the downhill.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Whenever I live close to Downeyville, I'm sure you've been or heard of that, and you always see the moto guys. They like shuttle backwards, like they're shuttling to the bottom, and we're shuttling to the top. It's always kind of a trip. So
yeah,
right on. So how did you get from like doing the races in France to like being in Canada?
So I basically met pretty randomly, but I met this guy in France. We had one friend in common, and my buddy was like, "Hey, like, I was supposed to ride with him that day, and I didn't." And when he comes back, he's like, "Oh, I've met this guy called Sylvain. He's just like a super, super good rider and super fun to ride with." And I was like, because I was doing all those little races, I felt like I knew everybody that was good rider, because every good rider in France basically races. That's part of the culture. You don't really have like amazing riders. Well, now it's changed with free riding, but at the time, if you're a really good downhill rider, you'll be racing. And so my friend, like, oh yeah, you'll get along really well with this guy. And he kind of described it to me, and I'm like, I've never heard of this guy, never seen him. And it was not like a huge scene, there would be like 200 people per races, but only like 30, 40, like, really good riders. So I'd be like, funny, I've never heard of this guy. And I ended up meeting him like completely randomly. And we just had a blast riding together. Like we were going at the same speed everywhere. Like there was no section where he was better than me, and there was no section where I was better than him. So we would always like, race each other's. And long story short, he's a bit older than me, and he told me that he had done 2 summers in Whistler, and that's where he learned most of his skills. Like he was really good jumper. He was really comfortable doing like scrubs and whips, which I wasn't, because I would never practice jumping. I was a pretty good jumper, but I didn't know how to do scrub or whip, and he did. And he always told me, he's like, as soon as I can get a new visa, I'll go back to Canada. And he had a girlfriend at the time that was living in Vancouver, or that was planning to move to Vancouver. And so, we rode together like every weekend for a year. And one day, I just got my visa. I'm going back to Canada in a couple of months. And I was pretty bummed. I was obviously stoked for him, but I was like, oh, I'm going to lose my best riding buddy. And I've always wanted to go to Canada. But he was like, you should definitely finish your studies and then get a work visa, come to Canada. And I don't know if I would have gone to Canada if I didn't know anyone there. So the fact I knew him. It was a huge help having someone, that comes and pick you up at the airport, and you have a place to stay for a few days, few weeks while you get set up. Like, that was a huge asset for me. And
Yeah,
so,
because that's a big change. I mean, it's like a different country on the other side of the planet, so you don't have any support system or anything. So
yeah, I'd never, I was pretty independent, but I'd never lived alone before.
Mhm.
I was just finishing studying, and while I studied, I stayed at my parents' place because it was close back, the university.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it's been amazing. I met him back in Canada a few months, a year later for me. And yeah, we're still really good friends, obviously. And yeah.
Were you riding, like, were you a sponsored rider at that point, or did you
No,
not get sponsored until after you got to Canada?
no, I got sponsored after I got to Canada. Back in France, I had what's called a co-factory, which would be, if you go and like if you race and you get like decent results at like a local level, like you'll get a shop that supports you with like 25 to 40% of a bike. Uh,
Yeah,
like the very first step of
yeah.
sponsoring. So that's what I had in France for a couple of years, and I was always very like professional. So I'd be like very serious and try to do my best to best represent the shop that was helping me out. Uh,
Mhm.
it was very it was amateur. And when I came to Canada, I had to buy a new bike, and I tried to do the same, to have that same approach. Like, it was
Mhm.
called grassroots. So like what grassroots contract.
Mhm.
So basically, and I got this with a few brands. A lot of it was like 40% off. And then when I came to Whistler, that's really when things started to change, because I was riding so much. I did progress, but also I was very analytical of my riding. I was trying to progress. I was not just riding for riding. I was trying to get better. So I'd do
Mhm.
the same trail like 10 times in a row, try to get faster every time. Like, I treat every single lap that I did almost like a race, where you
Mhm.
try to do like, analyze the line, analyze the bike, what can I change? How can I get faster? And then there was that local series of races in the bike park on Fat Wednesday, where you basically got 9 races across the course of a season on different trails. And I was doing those, and I had no intention whatsoever to do any good at it, but I ended up doing pretty good at it. And that really like boost me to try to keep going fast and faster.
Yeah. I think what you said there about analyzing the lines is one of those things that a lot of people don't actually do. Like, they don't go out and even on their local trails and really take apart a trail piece by piece and figure out how to get faster at it. And I think when you do that, you unlock so much time that you just didn't. Like, a lot of people just go out, they try to ride it as fast as they can over and over again, and that helps. But I really think, I mean, do you agree with me? Like, when you go out and you actually are like, no, look at this line, that makes sense. Like, you really, really change things a lot.
Oh, for sure, yeah, it's huge, and it applies for any sport, not just mountain
Hmm.
bike. You got two kind of people, people who just want to ride for fun, and the people who ride for fun but also want to progress, because the idea of progression gives them just as much fun as the riding. And I'm
Yeah.
one of those people where I love riding, but progressing is for me the best feeling.
Yeah, I kind of bounce between the two. Like, sometimes I want to get better, and sometimes I'm just like, this is cool, man. You know what I mean? Like,
And I'm the same. There's some kind of stuff where I'm not really bothered about trying to progress.
yeah,
I went this weekend and I rode Coast Gravity Park, which is a bike park on Sunshine Coast,
uh-huh,
and I just wanted to ride. You
yeah.
know? Yeah, yeah. I
You
could,
know, go ahead.
I could have like maybe stop, look at places, and be like, oh, maybe I can find a gap here, and do it
Yeah,
over. I just wanted to ride.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was thinking about, like, you were talking about, when you moved to Canada and how that kind of changed things for you. It kind of reminds me of like people that want to be an actor, they all go to LA, and it seems like going to BC is like the way that you can work on becoming a professional. Do you feel like that's like similar, or?
I don't think it's the way to do it. Like it's worked for a few people, but it's not. I feel like you could do that anywhere in the world where there is a scene.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you get opportunities anyway to travel, and also you have to think that Whistler is great. There's a lot of talent, but it's also very, very competitive. So to stand out in Whistler, it's much harder to stand out in Whistler than it will be to stand out elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get people from all over the world coming every season, and you get so many fast people and so many talented kids. So it's not the only way to make it as a provider.
Yeah. What would be your advice to somebody that's trying to like maybe in a similar position to you when you were in France and you were just kind of racing locally?
Well, either you follow the racing aspect, and then if you're in France, you're in a really good place to be very successful at it, because there's a lot of races. There is an extremely high level. If you're in the US, like the problem with the US is that the country is so big, right?
Mm-hmm.
Start going to like races, it gets expensive, but there's a lot of amazing rider in the US as well. Canada has got obviously amazing rider and amazing trail, but not all year long. So that's a little bit of a trouble. I think you just really need to be really passionate, and you need to really, really enjoy it. And then you need to be very methodical, but you need to have fun. Like I ride moto with Jackson Goldstone, which is currently probably one of the best mountain biker. Like he won hardline by 7 seconds basically. He was the fastest time of the day in Val Nord at the World Cup, and I think one of the reasons why he's so good is just because he has fun. Like he loves running so much, and wherever he goes, like he doesn't. If there is like a road and you have to pedal on the road for a little bit, like he's playing on his bike, and he really loves it. And I think that's why he's so good. But one of the reasons why he's so good. And I think as soon as you stop having fun, you don't progress.
Yeah. How do you keep finding things to push your skill set? Because I mean, when I watch you, like you're doing things that to me are like and not even possible. You know what I mean? Like, but like between like you and Nate Hill out riding around together, that's like, oh, this is a normal day, So like, I would say like in my riding, as I've progressed, there's trails that I used to have a lot of fun on that are kind of boring now. And I would imagine that once you get to the level that you're at, you're like, how do you find the enjoyment or the things that really push you?
Well, I like to push myself only when I'm really in the mood of getting gnarly. Like I need to be very confident. I need to have a purpose. If my purpose is only to scare myself, like I never do that. Like usually it will be for a video, and I'm very, very calculated. Like I never do something kind of random. It's always very like I spend a lot of time thinking about how I can do it, what's gonna be the best approach. It comes back to either the technique, the line. There's like a lot going on, but also, so I love the super gnarly features and to really challenge myself. But I also really enjoy the very easy stuff. So if you put me on a trail with like some super small jumps, but it's well built and it's fun. Like I have actually a video coming tomorrow on my channel, and it's it's a fairly easy trail. It was actually a blue trail. There's a couple of big jumps in the middle, but overall it was a blue trail, and I had so much fun riding it. And it's not something where I had to push myself. Like none of the jumps were a challenge or scary or they were like, and I really, really enjoyed it. Like I don't need to push myself to my limits to have fun. And I think that's important. Like I see some people who, and also I get paid to push myself, right? Like the gnarlier stuff I do, basically the more value I can have for sponsor, because I can show what the product can do. So for me, it's a really fine line between taking those risks but making sure that are fun, and when I do take those risks, making sure it's very calculated and that I limit my exposition to danger, basically.
Have you been injured before in the past, like a bad injury, or?
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
The funny thing is that most of my injuries were on stuff completely random.
Yeah.
It was not doing something crazy or not taking a risk. And I think it comes from like when I do something difficult, I am so focused. My level of focus is extremely high. Whereas every time I got injured, most of the time was, just cruising around and, I caught a pedal thing, or, there was a rock on the way, or I just lost my balance doing something stupid. That was most of the injuries. So it's never really affected my confidence to do gnarly stuff. Obviously, it does suck, but it's part of the game. So I try to be patient and, I try to make sure that I can come back healthy and with a good mindset.
Yeah. How do you mentally prepare for some things that like recently I think on Instagram you did that big roll in Moab, that like huge one, right? Like that's not really something that you can stack up to like, oh, I've done something like this before. So like, how do you get yourself in the mindset to do that?
Well, it was like, I knew what was the skill required to do that kind of feature, and it's all about braking control. That's pretty my best quality on the bike, my braking control. So I feel like, I was very confident that if someone, has a skill to do that kind of stuff, it would be me. That's what I do all the time, like braking control, steep stuff with braking control. So like doing it was not, I had no fear whatsoever doing that. Mostly because it had been done before. So,
Is that one of those things that just looks worse than what it actually is when you're on it?
Yeah, I think it does look worse than it actually is. I think yeah. But then, knowing that, it had been done before, I'm just gonna ride it my way, which would be, with my own style. And I was like, I can probably ride that faster than it's been done before. And so there's like a little roll in the middle where you basically cut some air. So unless you know how to do a scrub, you won't be able to do it or not fast. And so, I did it as fast as I could just to make it more entertaining for people to watch. But for me, going really fast on it was not more fun. It was purely for, to have a good video out of it.
Yeah, totally.
By the way, I don't advise anyone doing that feature. It's dangerous, but also apparently it's completely illegal. So I'll recommend people to not try it.
Oh yeah, I hear you. I know you were doing that. I watched that video that you did with Nate Hill and Sedona, and you guys were like up above the white line. Was that stuff sketchy to you, or did you feel like you were like kind of just right in your zone there too?
No, same. Like I was in the zone. Like the white line, I actually didn't walk it. I straight rode it. I know there's exposure, and like exposure can really get me. Today I went to see a feature that one of my friends built, and it's like a jump onto like kind of a mushroom feature. And if it was like a meter off the ground or like 50 centimeters off the ground, like you will not even think about it. But it's actually really high. So if for some reason you were to make a mistake, you'll get badly hurt. So exposure like really gets me sometimes, but on the white line, it didn't actually. The likeliness of me making a mistake there would be, it's pretty, but once again, mistakes do happen. So
yeah. I remember you were doing stuff above it though. I remember there was some kind of like, there was like you like kind of dropped into this little shelf, and then you had to jump off this other shelf and get into a real steep kind of ravine that like got you down to the white line because you guys were up above it.
Yeah, so I started I don't know if it's the bottom part's definitely been done before. The upper part that I've done, not sure it's been done before. It actually looks nothing in video, but it's pretty gnarly because you looking straight down at the bottom of the white line.
Yeah.
So, if something were to happen, that could be really, really bad. But I'll go back next year and see if I can find new lines and more creative stuff to write. So pretty excited about that.
So at what point did you decide like what you were doing as racing wasn't wasn't enough that you wanted to start doing YouTube as well?
Well, I've done racing. I've tried to race at the World Cup level in 2015 or 16. Yeah, 15 and 16. But the first thing is that I didn't enjoy it. Like I never enjoyed the racing. I felt like I did it because I was getting better and better, and I was like, maybe I could do something if I keep training and if I keep focusing on it. But the truth is that I've never liked the race, like actually racing. I love following racing, but like when there is a beep at the start, like I just get scared and the things that I didn't have fun. And so when you take the fun away from me, if I don't have fun, like I really don't ride well. Like I need to enjoy it. When I have fun, when I enjoy it, you can tell because I just ride much, much better. And but then I got the opportunity with Rampage, and it turned out I could have like my own style and my own signature to anything I was doing, and same with the videos. And the racing was not for sponsors; it was for me. Like I was like, I'm in a position where I can try, so I may as well try. But it was never like pressure of sponsor to go and do races. And so I think in 2014, 2015, I focused on just doing my own thing with like creating content, videos, photos. I did a few urban downhill races, and I actually did pretty good at some of them. I won Puerto Vallarta and Don Taxco, which are like two of the biggest ones. That was some of the best riders there. And I did fifth at Valparaiso, which is probably the biggest events. And so I did pretty good at that, but same, I just didn't enjoy it. I loved riding my bike in the city, and training was really like the training was super fun. But the actual race, when there's a beep at the start and you have to go as fast as you can, I just didn't enjoy it. I love riding at 80% of my abilities, but I never enjoy riding at 100% of my abilities.
Yeah.
And the difference between you do a track in 3 minutes or you do it in 3 minutes and 10. For me, I have way more fun doing it in 3 minutes and 10 seconds, and I take literally half of the risk. Just pushing to that racing speed, it just it was never fun for me. Like the risk was just way too high. And
so you started looking at YouTube as a way to like still be like able to ride at the level that you wanted to and have like sponsors and stuff like that. So you figured you'd be more marketable if you could get a good social following.
Yeah, that's basically it. So the way my career started, first of all, I never thought I would ever be a pro rider. It just in end of 2013, I put 2 videos out from Whistler that really blew up, and I started to get like lots of companies interested. 2014 is really when I did it again the following year, where I put a video and everybody was like, wow. So that's really what helped me. And then I was like, well, now I can get a new visa for Canada, so I have no choice than making pro mountain biking like an actual job. And so really when I started to push and I started to get paid enough to live off mountain biking. So it was end of 2014 and 2015. And then I got invited to Rampage and somehow I finished 10th, so I was pre-qualified for the next year. And in 2016, I was very disappointed with my riding. Somehow I was qualified again for 2017. And then I got denied entrance in the US when I went to Rampage. I got denied entrance because the border told me I needed an athlete visa, which you don't need when you come and compete for prize money. You do not need an athlete visa, just a tourist visa. But anyway, I got denied entrance, and so I was like, shit, that might be, the start of the end of my career for me, because if I can get to Rampage, it's a huge blow for my sponsors. That year I hadn't do much. It was 2017. I didn't do, because I was invited at Rampage. So I was like,
yeah. So you're like standing at the airport, and did you already like fly to the US and you were at customs, or you were like just trying to leave?
I drove. So I got turned around, and then I tried to go back, like, a couple of days later. I had a letter from a lawyer. Like, if you read the law, I was totally allowed to go to the US and compete for prize money.
Yeah.
Once you get denied at the US border, like, I was chatting to someone else at the embassy, and they knew that I was in my right to go and compete for prize money, but they just like don't want to go against the decision of one of their coworkers. You could tell it was so obvious that the guy knew. I was like, I had printed the law. I was like, look, it says here, like,
yeah.
And the guy was like, sorry, you do not meet the qualification for the tourist visa. And I'm like,
oh God, that had to be like so infuriating.
Yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare. And so then I went to a race in Mexico, in Taxco, and like I felt like I had no other choice than to win. Like I had to win to, just to not let my sponsors down. That was really, I was like, I need to put everything I have to win. And somehow I won the two runs and take best time of the run. But so I won. And so then I was like, okay, I'm, onto something. And then I won again the first race of the season in Puerto Vallarta, like the first only race. So the first race I did. And so I was like, oh, I'm onto something again. That's, I can keep my sponsors happy. And I was then focusing on urban downhill, which, at the time I really enjoyed the vibe, and it was really fun. But actually before that, in 2016, I went to that same race in Taxco and had a crash, and I broke my T6 vertebra.
Oh no.
And for a while I was like, okay, the doctors were like, you probably will never ride again at the same level. And so I was very, very worried. So I thought my career would come to a stop in 2016. But somehow I recovered well. Then 2017 happened with, that denied entrance in the US. But
you're then, like, really?
Then it went back up with, a few urban downhill events. And then, like sponsors like started to, they kept on increasing, and, I got better contract, and, with social media, like it was pretty, my growth was pretty linear, like the entire time, really. And I think it was really proportional to the effort I was doing, and, I was putting more effort into doing videos, and everything was, like all the hard work was rewarded basically. And but then, 2018, I went back to Rampage, and, I knew that I'd been 4 times, and it was no longer like my style of riding was not gonna be like, something that got people too excited, at least in that format of riding competition. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna get invited to Rampage again. So, that might be the end of, to decline as a provider. But, I was really happy that I had gone that far. Like, I never thought that, And so following that, actually, I, started YouTube, and my YouTube channel was, nothing super well done or anything like that. But I was like, and I didn't invent anything either. Like, I was just filming POV of trails, but I guess I was one of the few providers to do it. And then people really enjoyed when, I was giving tips. So I started to mix that with riding tips, and I think that was very valuable for sponsors. but also what really helped me is that I took all the free riding and all the stuff I'd done on my downhill bike, which was finding new gaps in Whistler, finding the hardest line I could possibly ride, and I actually started to a trail bike. And the trail bike was way more marketable than the downhill bike because that's what companies want to sell. It's trail bike. That's where the market it's way more. You sell 98 trail bikes for 2 downhill bikes, like something.
Yeah.
And so I started to have the same approach, go on non-trails and try to find the gnarliest line you could think of, or like create new lines. So on the non-trail, find a new gap, or a rock face that people would ride down. I'd be like, maybe I can jump it. And so I started to focus on that, and I think that's the best thing I've done for my career, for sure.
Are you looking at like getting travel budgets and trying to do more filming kind of like that and less competition? Is that kind of your long-term goal right now, or?
Yeah, so I'm no longer competing at all, actually. I might do a few like urban downhill event, but it's more just for the vibe and to make a video out of it, but it's not to be competitive at it. I'm no longer training, like I don't do intervals anymore. Like I will not be competitive. I'm a better rider now than I used to be. I have more skills, more style, but on the physical aspect and just how bad I want to go fast, that's kind of what faded away a little bit. But I'm definitely a better rider than before. So I'm stuck on that. For travel budget, that's what I'm working on now. It's just to go to location and just either it's with a sponsor or with a tourism company and just do videos that get people stoked on riding. That's I think just go and ride, and if I have fun, people would have fun watching the video, and all the tips I can give along, I'll do my best to keep the video as well educative, so people are excited to watch them, and hopefully they watch that on a Thursday, they learn something, and then they look forward to go on Saturday on their bike and apply what they learned.
Yeah, I had Andrew Taylor on a long time ago. He was another Rampage rider, and he kind of got into more like video stuff afterwards as well, where that was kind of what he was doing, like go to Mexico and film this thing or whatever. So that's pretty, I think it's cool. It's definitely, how did you get over the hump of learning how to edit and stuff like that? I mean, that's the hard part, right?
And I'm still learning every day. I was never good at it, and I was never interested in being good at it, but obviously you have. If you look at my videos, they're really, really, really basic. I'm a GoPro athlete, and I really enjoy using the GoPro. Like I've 1 year, and I'm very picky with the settings and how I set it up on my helmet, or on my chest, or I'm like getting like I really enjoy using the camera. But what I enjoy the most is getting that one clip for Instagram, that 1 10-second clip, and now that's where I want to go further, where find like a cool sunset, a cool trail, and have perfect light, and provide the highest quality video I can. But for YouTube, I keep it like basic and really focus on the riding and the tips more than the editing. Like I never do anything fancy with editing. I try to keep it like fairly simple. So I let the riding talk and the tips really my thing. With the editing, I don't want to spend hours putting a video together when I get at home. Like what I enjoy is riding, filming, but the editing part, it's never so I try to get the highest quality. I use DaVinci Resolve, and I do little tweaks to the color here and there. And I don't necessarily have a story every time. You see some of them, for any sport or any category, like all the most successful YouTubers have like a story. And that I was chatting with a few other like fellow mountain bike YouTubers, and it's like you need a story. But the thing that a lot of time I don't have a story. My story is I'm going to go and ride that cool trail with my friends, and that's
Yeah.
it. And
I think that you ride at a certain skill set that the story isn't as needed. Like you said it earlier, you said let the riding do its own talking, and I think that is probably where it really comes into play, because like to watch you ride, like I was watching you with BCPOV, you did a video with him, and I mean he's a good rider, he's a really good rider, but to watch like you behind him, you could see the difference in like where your skill level is, you know. And so when and I feel like somebody like him is already at maybe a level that people feel like is like on the cusp of unobtainable, but maybe it's like, oh, I can kind of relate with him because he stops on this and he works his way through it, you know. Where you watch a video that you put out, you know, hauling balls down some freaking, you know, mountaintop into where there's a cliff where you got to stop because there's no more trail, you know. Like that's a little different, where it's like that's entertaining to watch, you know.
yeah, so it's kind of like, but you know, on YouTube I never ride super, like I never ride at my limits. Whereas on Instagram, you know, if it's a 10-second clip, I'm gonna put way more effort on the riding. Because you know the demographic and what people expect to see is completely different. Whereas YouTube, you know, a lot of time I do the jump once and that's it, or you know I get different angle. But you know, even if I can ride the trail much better, I don't go back up to video it. Like I try to keep it real, so it's, you know, you'll watch the video and then you go and ride with your friend and it's the same feeling, you know. Like I just filmed the video earlier today. It's just for my second channel. I just put raw clips, so I just basically rode with my friend, and you know, he's a really good rider, but he knows the trail really, really well, and they were slippery, and you know, I just today I was, you know, I was pretty cold and didn't I don't know, I was not feeling super confident on my bike. You know, it's pretty sketchy. The trails we rode, they were difficult, gnarly. There's like a lot of things going on, and you know, he knows the trail super well. I don't. And you know, I wasn't riding well, and it's not something I'm proud of. Like I wasn't proud of my riding at all. But, you know, that was me today. I didn't ride super well. Here you go. You'll see the video. You know, I made a lot of mistakes, and you know, I won't edit any of it. Everything will go in, and that's, you know, that's how it is. But on Instagram, like I put more effort to make sure that I provide the best riding possible to my viewers.
Yeah. How do you work through those days? Like when you're having an off day, do you just accept it and kind of like, hey, this is where I'm riding at today, and don't let it eat at you? Or do you do something to try to like overcome it? Or what do you do?
Like I know a lot of it has to do with the amount of fun I have, and you know, I was just super cold. I mean, I had like good gear, but we took the e-bikes, so we didn't sweat a lot of, you know, a big amount. And when you ride behind someone and you can't really see where you're going, like you just follow someone, it's just sketchy. And sometimes it's just hard to, you know, when the trail is tight and there's a lot going on, and you know, you start riding and the trail is not. So those are trails that we rode that not many people ride, so they are not in very good shape. You know, there's a bunch of rocks here and there, and you know, it's difficult to be behind someone. And so, you know, I'm like, it doesn't really affect me because I'm like, you know, those
I
are
have a hard time following people. I tend to like really lock on their tire, like my vision, and then I just start making mistakes. Unless, you know, you really know the person well and you know what kind of lines they take, then you can kind of just trust it. But not usually do you feel that much comfort with somebody, you know what I mean? So I try not to. I usually end up taking some space, but I think when I have those days where I'm off, I just accept it for the day and just am like, just have as much fun as you're gonna have and let it be, you know.
Yeah, I think it's the same with me. You know, like I knew I was very tired today.
Yeah.
You know, tonight I'll go to bed early, and hopefully tomorrow, I wake up and I'm, inspired to go fast and, feel good on the bike. It's sometimes all it takes, it's just to start like the trail by, something that boosts your confidence and makes you relax for the rest of the trail.
Mm-hmm.
When you start, like I started, and right at the start, I made a mistake. Like at the very, like 5 seconds in, and that's really I was like, and then I made a second mistake, and you're like, that's hard on the confidence.
Yeah. Out of all the places that you get to ride, through your career and stuff, what's your favorite place that you would like when you think about, man, this would be my favorite place that I've ridden?
Home.
Yeah,
so Squamish.
Yeah.
Squamish, Whistler, Pemberton, Britannia, Vancouver.
Yeah.
That's the, I love those places. I really enjoyed Chile. Patagonia was amazing. I rode some incredible trails there.
Is it the riding or was it like the view that made it like so much amazing?
Well, definitely both. But the riding was spectacular. And the people, I mean, everywhere I've met incredible people. I really, really like Switzerland. I went and I rode some incredible terrain. I was really pumped. What else? I mean, that's it for the.
Good. That's good. Yeah. What riders do you look up to? Like, who do you like watching and being like, man, I really dig that person's style? And
I mean, there's so many talented riders. Braden Bellinghurst that climbs the wall in Chilata on his trail bike. He's one of the most talented riders out there, I think.
I watched that video the other day. It was amazing.
But he's extremely good at literally everything. Like on the bike, it's like his style, his skill, his fitness. He's got the full package, right? On the downhill circuit, Loïc Bruni, Loris Vergier, Amaury Pierron, Jackson Goldstone, is from Squamish, and he's a buddy of mine. And it's pretty cool because I ride moto with him, like trials and enduro, and you see him like struggle on the moto. Basically we are beginners.
Right.
And he's basically, we rode that weekend when he won Val Nord as a junior, but he also had the fastest time of the day. So he was basically the fastest rider in the world. And the race was on Saturday, and he flew back to Canada on Sunday. We went and rode together on moto on Monday or Tuesday, and he was just struggling. Like he was just, and it's pretty funny, to tease him and be like, he had arm pumps, and I was like, dude, you're the fastest mountain biker right now, and you suck at it. So it's pretty funny. So Jackson Goldstone, I mean, so many guys.
Yeah. You think that's good for you guys to have something that you're not good at, so it kind of like humbles you?
Yeah, of course. And that make us like appreciate the other sports. Like I'm a huge fan of so many sports. Like there's so many stuff, like even skiing. Like I'm looking at one of my buddies, probably one of the best skier in the world right now. Every season I go and ski with him, and it's just like, it's so cool to see someone at the top of their game. It's unreal. For moto, it's the same. Like I've never actually ridden with top. Actually, trials moto I did ride with a top rider once, and it's just like you just sit and you look at them, and it's so cool. It's just like a really cool feeling.
Yeah. It's definitely. I mean, I think it's like no matter what you're watching, like to watch somebody that's at that level. Like if you watch somebody that plays guitar at that level, or somebody that whatever it is, it's just it's really inspiring, and it's just amazing to see that somebody put that much time into becoming that good at something. So, what are you excited about for the future?
I'm gonna keep doing the same as what I'm currently doing for as long as I love it. and I'm just always excited to go and check out new places and see people I've met through biking that I haven't seen in a while, and just like the feeling of like creating something you're proud of, something that gets me like really excited. And I'm also very excited for stuff I do outside of biking, whether it's simple things like just going for dinner with my friends and
Mm-hmm.
skiing and just living in Squamish. It's for me like every day when I wake up, like I'm living my dream. That's
Yeah.
the
What's
place.
your favorite meal to go get with your friends?
It depends. In the winter, Indian food.
Indian food? Oh, right on.
Yes, there's quite a few Indian places in Squamish.
Uh-huh.
There's a big
Yeah.
community. And yeah, we usually watch a Supercross. So every Saturday night, someone hosts a dinner. And we usually, do Indian food, and yeah, it's just really fun time. Good beer. And I see a bunch of beers behind, so good beer and Indian food. I love to cook at home though, so
Yeah. What's your specialty? If you had a date coming over, what would you be like? This is my meal.
Avocado cashew. It's like a pesto. It's like a basil avocado cashew.
Oh, right on.
Good on pasta. That never disappoints.
Yeah.
I just cook like easy stuff, but like just nice veggies on the barbecue.
Yeah.
I do.
I'm a horrible cook, man. I'm no good at it. So my wife is very good cook, and I don't even know. Like it's how you were talking about watching a professional do something. That's what it's like watching her cook, because it's like I don't even know what language she's speaking.
Yeah, no, and people don't really know that about me, but my biggest hobby in life is eating.
Yeah, right on, man.
My favorite thing in the world. You'll never see me happier than at a restaurant or like in front of me.
Yeah, you said earlier that your favorite food in the winter is the Indian food. So do you have like seasonal favorites? What do you like in the summertime?
Well, in the summer, like Indian would feel like too heavy and too hot. I I actually love like super. Well, is there like pretty gastronomic food like coming from France? I like a good like very nice restaurant. But stuff that I do at home is usually super healthy. Like I like to eat very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be just like a Buddha bowl or nice vegetables with a salmon and some wild rice or something like that. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. Every time that I visit somewhere or like where I've lived places for a while, you always have like a favorite from there. Like for instance, when I was in Germany, the Turkish doner stands, like those doners were like so good. But what is it from France that you miss, that you think about?
Well, France, I mean, it's got like a few specialty, but not really where I'm from. It's just like, I mean, the food in France is just very sophisticated, right? But in terms of, there's a few restaurants in France and in Whistler, and they identify their food as French gastronomic, and it's basically would be like some duck or like a steak or the fish trio, but just like very refined, like the best part of the meat or the fish, and like some little potatoes or root vegetables, like very very well cooked. It's kind of what it is, really. It's when you think about it, you're eating like veggies with meat and a sauce, but it's just the way it's done. It's they put a lot of effort in how to cook stuff and how to prepare it, and that's. I mean,
do you like to watch cooking shows?
No, I don't actually. I'm terrible at following recipes. I don't follow recipes. I just free write it.
There you go. Just make it up as you go, right? That's rad, man. What did you said earlier that you're a GoPro rider? Have you tried out the new Mini yet?
I do actually. Why is it? So,
what's your take on it? What do you think?
It's been. I mean, the biggest thing is the weight difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's quite lighter. I mean, it's not half of the weight, but when it's on your helmet, it's significant. It does make a difference, especially in a trail bike helmet. and it's it's really it's like it's basically the same camera, just you don't have the screen. So it's like there, and you connect it from your phone. Like you do all your settings on the phone, which is actually easier than the camera. And usually your GoPro settings, like, I mean, I do change when I'm on the fly, from wide to super view or hyper view, depending what I feel. But for the most part, you don't really change settings.
I kind of leave it.
So you kind of have your settings at work, and I'll change the settings here and there depending what I ride. If I'm in Moab and there's no trees around, it's one thing. If I'm in Squamish, but settings that I have in Squamish, summer or winter, basically the same. So.
But you can't. There's no battery in that though, right?
Well, today I think I can tell you how much is left.
But I mean, you can't replace it. It's only like you charge it. It's internal, right?
Yeah. So I have 4 bars left out of 5, and I think a downhill that was probably over 1,000 meters of elevation, more because we did 2 bars. And so I think the footage I got was about 35 minutes footage, and I used 20% of the battery.
Yeah, so it's pretty good.
I think it's really good. Like,
yeah, I was impressed with it because I wanted to try it because the 11, like when you have it on the chest, the weight of it, especially if you're in something really, really technical, it kind of flops, So I think it makes the stabilization just look a little bit not as good. And I think that lighter weight might help,
Yeah, the lighter weight will help. I mean, on the chest, like mechanically, you have to tighten it, really tight. But also, it really depends on your ISO. What kind of lighting you use. Like, if it's dark, you need to crank up the ISO. It's been like, for me, the 11 it's been really good. I mostly use it on my helmet. I feel like that's a view that people prefer. And your helmet is, because when you think about it, your chest is moving so much. But if you get a GoPro subscription, you can stabilize the footage because GoPro purchased Real Steady, and it's unreal what you can do with it.
Interesting.
You could literally film with the stabilization off and stabilize on Real Steady and have it like it looks like you're wearing a gimbal.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's with the subscription.
Yeah, but so now
I have a subscription, but I never look at any of the stuff that they have on there. I just use it for
actually the stuff they give you. And actually, because right now the GoPro is the 11, they do a package deal with the subscription, and I mean right now so I'm on the website. Aero 11 Black Friday savings, $459 instead of $709, and that's with the new Aero 11 Black, and it includes a 1-year GoPro subscription.
Yeah. They basically make it so that it doesn't make any sense not to get the subscription. So I've had the subscription for a couple of years now, but like I said, I don't use the tools. It's really just about buying the GoPro cheaper,
Yeah,
I'll have to check that stuff out.
They do make a difference. Like, I don't use them much myself because I put it on my head most of the time. But it's definitely, I want to play with Real Steady. I think I could up my video game by using it. Yeah.
You use the 360 as well that they have, or?
Yep.
Right on.
Yeah, and I use the 360 mostly for Instagram.
For what? Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that one clip that I was talking about earlier where you're kind of just like the city's down below you. I think it's like sunset, and you just shot this shoot down kind of to the end of There Was No More Trail, and that clip just looked amazing. It really looked good.
I actually have the very same clip filmed another day, but it looks identical. But I filmed it because when I did that, it was my first or second ride back after an injury. So I was not very confident, but I opened up a new line from the top. I gap into the rock face, so I go significantly faster.
Oh wow!
And the color look even better, I think.
Right on, man. I'll have to check it out.
I'll post that in a few weeks.
Right on. That'll be fun to see. Well, we're almost here, wrapping up at the time that you had. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me, man. It was really fun getting to know you a little bit. And I mean, we've chatted here and there on the Slack group, but definitely didn't get a chance to get to know you like we did tonight. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the podcast. And
yeah. I always ask people at the end of the show, what other YouTube channels do you like to watch, whether or not it's mountain biking or not? What do you like to watch?
Good question. I do watch, other bike YouTubers who are pro riders who've done. I kind of like scroll around, and whenever I see something that that catches my attention, whether it's like trails that I've heard about, something I run on the video and it's very obvious from the thumbnail or the title, I'll definitely watch it. I guess I would be looking at I do look at some moto videos, race recap, because I learn a lot from watching pro riders doing their thing. So on the moto, like especially hard enduro, you see the guys like going up like super technical, super difficult terrain, and I can see how they position themselves on the bike, and that really helps me with my own riding. So
are there guys in the moto that are doing kind of like BKXE where they're like tell you how to do stuff and they kind of tell a story, or is it more just like riding?
You know what? I think there's one channel, but it's really for motocross. The guy is, he's on the verge to be a pro rider, but not there yet. And so he's got a YouTube channel that does really, really good. I forgot his name actually. But it's more like motocross. So I don't have as much interest. There is a channel for enduro moto, and the guy kind of tests the bikes and compare bikes, and I watch his channel before. He's got some really good tips. Forgot it. That Bike TV is his name. Somewhere in Utah. And
man.
Yeah, it's actually I feel like there's a big market for moto for YouTube because it's a bigger sport than mountain biking. So
it's so crazy. There's so much stuff out there too, man. It doesn't matter. Like right when you think you've seen them all, next day you get on, you're like find some channel that has like 100,000 subscribers you never even heard of.
It's pretty crazy. Like a lot of viewers for how small the sport is, basically.
Right. Well, once again, man, really appreciate you being here. All of you guys that are listening, definitely go check out his stuff if you haven't checked it out before. There's a link in Show More. You can hit while you're down there in the Show More stuff, you can hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed this, or subscribe if you want to see some more. If you're listening on the podcast, do the follow, or like I said at the beginning, if you could swing by Apple Podcasts, write me a 5-star review. That'd be rad too. So if you don't want to do any of that, I totally get it. Just remember one thing: it only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.